The chandelier sparkled above the Grand Lakeshore Ballroom, casting golden light across crystal, silk, and Chicago's elite. My sister Natalie stood at the head table, her couture gown glittering as she raised a champagne flute. 200 guests leaned in, waiting for her maid of honor toast. About me, her older sister, Ava, the family's cautionary tale. I adjusted the hem of my off-the-rack navy dress and tried to ignore the sideways glances from relatives who thought they were subtle. Aunt Linda whispered to Uncle Rob behind her menu. Natalie's college roommate gave me a look I knew well, pity with a touch of smugness. They were all waiting for it. Natalie had teased for weeks that her speech would be real and honest. Code 4, Ava, publicly dissected. If only they knew. I glanced down at my phone hidden beneath the linen-draped table. 8:47 p.m. 13 minutes to go, just 13 more minutes of polite smiles and pretending to be the family failure. Natalie's voice flowed like silk. Before I talk about my amazing husband, Ben, she began, I want to say a few words about the person who taught me resilience, my sister, Ava. Here it comes, I thought, sipping the champagne I'd bought myself but let them assume was a rare treat. Ben Larchmont sat beside her, Ivy League jawline, old money posture, exactly what my parents wanted for me, everything they believed I'd never become. Ava's here tonight, Natalie continued, turning to smile at me like I was a beloved rescue pet, and I've learned so much watching her journey. The room turned to me, I smiled back, graceful, unbothered. Ava's path hasn't been traditional, Natalie said. She's explored a lot, teaching, marketing, even a bakery once. Polite laughter rippled. Aunt Linda offered a knowing nod. And now she's freelancing in tech, passion projects mostly, right? Living in that cute little walk-up in Wicker Park, still driving her old Civic, still dreaming big. Sympathetic smiles, soft sighs. Uncle Rob looked like he was bracing for impact. I peeked at my phone again. 8:59 p.m. 1 minute. They didn't know I wasn't just freelancing in tech. I was the anonymous founder of Lynx Vault, the cybersecurity firm featured in tonight's headline, $320 million acquisition, official as of 9 p.m. Let them toast to that. What they didn't know, my cute little walk-up was actually a penthouse, one of 3 properties I own through a private trust. The Civic was a decoy. My real vehicles were tucked in a climate-controlled garage off Lakeshore Drive. And those failed ventures? Strategic exits, each part of a master plan they could never imagine. Natalie went on, her voice sharpening. But you know what I've learned from Ava? She said, smiling sweetly. I've learned what not to do. I've learned the value of stability, of playing it safe, of avoiding the kind of wild dreams that never quite pan out. The room laughed softly. She was the golden bride, teaching a lesson, with me as the example. Ava, I hope tonight shows you what real success looks like, a grounded life, a real partnership. I hope you stop chasing fantasies, and start living in reality. She raised her glass. To my sister, Ava, may marriage teach her what ambition never could. Laughter, applause, glasses lifted. I lifted mine too. Smile poised, back straight. Then, something no one expected. The ballroom's video screens flickered, the wedding slideshow disappeared. In its place, the hotel's breaking news feed came to life. A news anchor's voice cut through the room. We interrupt with breaking news. Chicago woman becomes the youngest billionaire in state history. Natalie froze, her champagne flute suspended mid-toast. Every head turned to the screens. A photo appeared. My photo. Not from Instagram. The one I'd taken for Forbes. Ava Sinclair, 30, of Chicago, has been revealed as the founder and CEO of Lynx Vault, a cybersecurity firm acquired by Meridian Corp in a $4.7 billion deal. Sinclair is expected to net $3.2 billion personally. She remained anonymous for years, operating through shell corporations and living modestly to avoid attention. Silence. Not a breath. And just like that, I was no longer the family disappointment. I was their headline. I could hear the hum of the AC. The clink of a dessert fork. A bracelet hit the floor. Natalie's lips parted. Ben's jaw locked. I took another sip of champagne, letting the silence thicken like velvet before offering a quiet toast back to lessons learned. At the family table, under a cascade of white roses, my parents looked like they'd forgotten how to breathe. The news anchor's voice continued, crisp and merciless. Lynx Vault revolutionized cybersecurity for financial infrastructure and high-frequency trading. Its proprietary AI is now embedded in multiple global firms, including Larchmont Rowe, Ben Larchmont's own firm. I watched his expression collapse, his confident facade folding in on itself like a paper house meeting fire. Ben blinked at the screen, slowly processing the reality. The most valuable asset his company relied on was built by the sister-in-law he'd dismissed as a failure. The woman they'd all pitted. Sources confirm Ava Sinclair will remain CEO, the anchor added. Her next ventures include aerospace defense and next-generation energy security. The broadcast ended. The slideshow of Natalie and Ben resumed, but no one was watching. Every eye in the room was on me. I rose slowly, smoothing my plain navy dress, once seen as modest, now redefined as the quiet uniform of power. Well, I said, voice steady, unhurried, I suppose the cat's out of the bag. Natalie found her voice first. Ava, how long have you been doing this? 5 years, I replied. Since the Christmas you told me to stop embarrassing the family with my little coding hobby. I turned to face the crowd, those guests who'd spent the night whispering, smirking, offering condolences wrapped in condescension. I'd like to thank my sister for her thoughtful toast. She's right, I've learned a lot from this family. I paused. I've learned how to build in silence. I've learned how people mistake quiet for failure. And I've learned that the most elegant form of revenge is success. Ben stood suddenly, rattled. Ava, if I ever said anything. You didn't say anything tonight, I cut in. But last month at the country club? When you joked that Natalie was lucky to have at least one successful sibling. I smiled, cool, measured. You didn't notice me. I was 2 tables over. Lunching with an investor. I glanced at my phone. 47 interview requests. 12 VC offers. A keynote at the World Economic Forum. Natalie slumped in her chair, her fairy tale toast dissolving into ash. The deal closes Monday, I said. I'll remain CEO. And yes, my next venture launches soon. My phone buzzed again. I didn't need to check it, I already knew what it said. Kara had confirmed the Forbes cover. I gathered my minimalist clutch, the same one I'd carried all night. Suddenly, it looked like it belonged in a museum display called Underestimated Billionaire Style. I should go, I said lightly, letting the words ripple through the stillness. Early morning with Forbes. Something about a cover story. I leaned in, brushing a kiss against Natalie's cheek, my voice just loud enough for her to hear. Congrats on the wedding, sis. I hope Ben realizes he just married into a billionaire family. A pause. Technically, through me, not you. As I walked toward the doors, the silence followed like a shadow. 200 people who'd spent the evening underestimating me. Now stunned into reverence. Just before I reached the exit, I turned back. The photographer was scrambling, adjusting his lens, suddenly aware he'd just captured one of the most expensive humiliations in recent social memory. Oh, and Natalie? I called out. That little walk-up you mentioned? I own the building. 47 floors. Think of it as a wedding gift. The next morning, I sat in my real office, 45th floor, Meridian Tower, sipping the same dark roast I'd loved for years. Back when everyone assumed it was the only kind I could afford. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing, family, old classmates, former bosses, eager to reconnect. I ignored most. But one message made me pause. Remember when you asked if anyone would ever take your impossible ideas seriously? I think you got your answer. So proud of you. Dr. Kim. I was about to respond when Kara knocked gently. Miss Sinclair, your sister Natalie is here. Says she'd like a word. I glanced at the clock. 10:30 a.m. Right on time. Send her in. Natalie entered with flawless posture, her beige designer coat crisp, smile poised like a negotiation strategy. Ava, she said, tone smooth, I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. I gestured to the chair across from me. The desk where I'd built what they called a fantasy. Just reviewing acquisition proposals. What can I do for you? She sat delicately, gripping her designer bag like it might shield her. I wanted to apologize for last night. The speech was meant to be motivational. I studied her, quietly. Searching for sincerity beneath the highlighter and false humility. Motivational? I repeated. I thought, if I showed you what real stability looked like, you might be inspired to take a more traditional path. There it was. Even now, she thought she was the example. That I'd finally caught up. Natalie, I said, leaning forward, what do you think Ben made last year? She brightened slightly. He's one of the top partners. Nearly $500,000. I tapped my keyboard. A document opened on the screen. Larchmont Rowe paid Lynx Vault $847 million in licensing fees over the past 3 years. I let it sink in. Your husband's entire firm runs on tech I built. Her smile faltered. Just slightly. Also, I added, that wedding Ben gifted you? The venue, florist, and caterer, subsidiaries of my holdings. Shell companies, of course. The color drained from her face. Natalie blinked. The foundation of her polished composure had begun to crack. So when you stood up to educate me about real success, I said quietly, you were, without realizing it, financing your sermon with my money. Ava, I didn't know, she whispered, how could I have? You couldn't, I replied, walking toward the tall windows. Because you never asked. In 5 years, not once did you ask what I was working on. You saw an old Civic and a modest apartment, and you assumed that was the whole story. I looked back over my shoulder. But that's not what upset me. She lifted her gaze. I'm upset because you used your wedding, what should have been your happiest day, to humiliate someone you claim to love. Silence settled, then finally, her voice cracked. I was jealous. I turned, surprised. Jealous of what? Of your freedom, she said, your courage. I followed the rules, school, career, marriage. You walked away and built something unforgettable. And for the first time that morning, she sounded like my sister, not a script. I spent years watching you, she went on. Assuming you were struggling, convincing myself that my path was smarter, safer, more respectable. She looked up, her eyes finally clear of performance. I was wrong. I sat again, watching her closely. Behind the curated look, I saw something rare, vulnerability, truth. You're not wrong about stability, I said. And yeah, planning matters, but you were wrong to think success only has one face. My phone buzzed, a message from the aerospace team, strategy meeting, Monday. I'm building something new now, I said, glancing at the screen. Quantum aerospace. We're developing orbital manufacturing platforms for zero-gravity AI systems, eventually, satellite-based infrastructure for deep space logistics. Natalie blinked. Space manufacturing? I smiled, for real this time. Want to hear about it? For the next hour, I did what I'd never done before, I shared my vision. I laid out the blueprint, how Lynx Vault's AI would power unmanned space factories, how modular platforms could change exploration forever. She asked smart questions, about investors, policy, supply chains. She listened, really listened. Finally, she said, I know people, defense contractors, NASA-adjacent investors, aerospace execs. If you're serious, I want to help. I raised an eyebrow. You're offering? She nodded. I know I don't deserve it, not after last night, but I want to be the sister who believes in you, not the one who tears you down. I considered that. Forgiveness isn't weakness, but trust, that has to be earned. There might be a place for you at Quantum Aerospace, I said slowly, but not because we're family, because I think you can bring real value, business strategy, partnerships, growth development. Her eyes lit up. You mean it? I do, but Natalie, if you come on board, you follow my lead, my timelines, my standards, no family favors, no second guessing in front of the team. She nodded instantly. Understood. And one more thing, I added, standing. Next time you give a speech about success and failure, make sure you know which one's which. She laughed, genuinely this time. Deal. As she left to think about the offer, I paused for a moment. 24 hours ago, I was the afterthought. Now I was offering my sister a job. Funny how fast everything changes. My phone rang. I answered. Forbes here, the voice said warmly. Ms. Sinclair, congratulations. The world is fascinated, building $1 billion company in silence, all while your own family thought you were struggling. How did you do it? I leaned back, the city skyline gleaming beyond the glass. Simple, I said. Success isn't about proving anything to anyone else. It's about building something that matters, even if no one sees it but you. And what's next for Ava Sinclair? I smiled, thinking of satellites. orbital AI systems, and a sister who might help me launch them. The sky's not the limit anymore, I said. It's just the beginning. Monday morning. The Forbes cover dropped. The Billionaire Next Door, How Ava Sinclair Built an AI Empire in Plain Sight. It chronicled my journey from family disappointment to tech pioneer. But what mattered most wasn't in the magazine. It was a simple text later that afternoon. First day at Quantum Aerospace tomorrow. Thank you for the second chance. Let's build something impossible together. Natalie. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes, it's giving people space to grow beyond who they were when they doubted you. And sometimes, if you're lucky, they rise. So if you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or told your dreams were unrealistic, you already know part of my story. I didn't build Link's Vault, or launch Quantum Aerospace, to prove anyone wrong. I did it because I believed in something that didn't exist yet. And I didn't wait for anyone's permission to create it. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you're building, what they said you'd never do, the dream they laughed at, the goal that still burns. If my story spoke to you, hit subscribe. Not just to follow what's next, but to be part of a space that champions misfits, visionaries, and builders like you. Because here's the truth. Success doesn't always show up in designer heels or boardroom applause. Sometimes it wears thrift store shoes and builds quietly in the dark. But when it arrives, it shines. So build quietly, dream boldly, and when the time comes, let your work be the answer. I'm Ava Sinclair. And we're just getting started.